Hi everyone, light a mug. So here we are, it's Sunday and we're in the last little few bits of Storm Dennis, which have absolutely ripped this country to pieces apparently. I'm in Gloucester, so luckily only saw winds, I don't know, 50 miles an hour, 55, 60 maybe, I don't know, but generally according to the forecast it was like 45, 50 mile an hour I think. Still quite cold, probably cold because of the wind. It's still bit breezy, but the sun is out. So basically that storm has stopped play with the welding and the painting, because the one thing you can't do is paint when it's damp, and the one thing you can't do when it's windy as well, because it blows all the gas away. So yeah, so forget that, unless I come in the garage and shut the door and everything, and that means the dog can't be with me. But I don't have the dog with me when I'm grinding, welding anyway. You might have noticed that if you are welding at home or grinding or anything, put your pets away. You never know, they might jump into the sparks and end up burning their eyes or something, and I'm sure dogs can get arc eye just like we can. And if your dog is as inquisitive and as nosy as mine is, then obviously it will be always wanting to see what you're doing. So yeah, last night in the wind, the tub on its wooden frame managed to get moved across the driveway and almost hit my other car. So lucky it didn't. It sort of hit the Land Rover chassis, which stopped it going any further, which was lucky. I haven't had a look yet, but I just hope the tub's not damaged. I don't know if it just gently rolled towards the chassis or if it was picked up and crashed into it or what, I don't know. But we shall see. I don't want to know that yet. So what I'm going to do in the meantime, one of the conversions I want to do while everything is out is fit an Ashcroft ATB Centre Diff, automatic torque biasing centre diff. Especially finding that my output shaft was okay, that's almost kind of funded it. So the centre diff is almost free. Been in touch with Dave at Ashcroft's, and where I am right now, I want to strip you've got to strip the transfer case down anyway to fit the bearings, to fit the diff, and I want to check all the bearings and everything and make sure everything's good. So basically what I'm going to do now is strip the transfer case, and I thought you might want to see what I'm doing. So I think what I'll do is I'll video bits of it, speed it up through, and we'll just zip through it, and at the end when it's all stripped, I'll come back and speak to you again. So let's get on and get this box stripped down, and first of all I'll show you where you can find the manual, free of charge, online, and then you can have it out in the garage with you on your tablet or whatever, and follow it. And it's the genuine Land Rover manual too. So here's how we get the manual if you want to. This is on my Amazon Fire. So basically I've got this up here. I've got Ashcroft Transmission's website. Okay, so we can go on here. So we just click on Ashcroft Transmission's website. I'm doing this left-handed. Let's do it right-handed. Okay, so we go up here and we look down on the left-hand side here, and we've got all the different bits and pieces. And here it goes. Down here we have got DIY rebuild kits. Okay, and then we look down here, and we can see here we've got LT230 rebuild kits. So we click on that. Right, and then we've got a picture of an LT230 there, a few descriptions, and then you've got your master rebuild kit there, which is £95. You've got your diff, which I'm going to be getting, the ATB diff, and then you've got the fitting kit. Now, I haven't ordered this yet purely because I know from some research that my gearbox doesn't have gaskets, so I don't need any gaskets. Now the fitting kit comes with bearings, O-rings and shims and everything, as you can see there, which you do need. But the thing is, I'm taking the transfer box apart, A, to put this in, B, because my oil's come out a couple of times now, sort of fairly black and with iron filings, I think it's 3 times now. So I want to see exactly what's going on in there. And I've got to take it apart to put this in anyway, so if I've got any bearing wear, then I'll order that, and then I'll order the shims, rather than buying that and the diff and then buying all that which has got the bearings in it anyway. So that's why I haven't bought that. This tool here, I'm not going to buy it, I'm going to make it. It's probably going to cost me more than £25 at the time to make it, but as you know, I enjoy making tools. We've got a set of bolts there you can buy, which I don't need because mine are all lovely. 4 set of bearings for the LT230, input bearings, input gear, transfer box seals, oil feed plate, which mine shouldn't have, HD cross pin. That's if you're not going to get the if you're not going to bother with the diff, that's a minimum, I would say, because what happens is the centre diff is the weak part of the transmission. So you've got planet gear thrust washers there for the diff, you've got intermediate shaft, that wears out, and high capacity sump, which I think I might get as well. So so there we go. Now the way to get to this, if you go to the the master rebuild kit and click on that, he says, okay, and then go down in here in the description, okay, it tells you what's all in the kit and everything, right here. But here you've got rebuild manual, click here. So if you click there, and as you can see here, we've got the full Land Rover manual. So we can go through there and we can swipe through the pages, and really is a useful thing to have, and it's really good. It's got all the exploded diagrams and everything. Really good, really handy, and that's what I'm going to be using for this strip then. Okay, so let's look at the tools we're going to need for this job. I'm sorry about the phone moving around, the camera moving around should I say, but I am holding it. First tool you're going to need is this one, beer. Okay, you need some beer. Some people think that's not beer, I think it's wonderful, I love the stuff. So then, let's go from left to right. 6mm Allen key, that's going to be for removing your detents and everything. You've also got a little magnetic tool there that's seen better days, and that's for getting out your spring and your plunger ball. Sockets, 1/2 inch drive, you've got 8mm, 10mm, 13mm, 15mm and 30mm. Now they're all 1/2 inch drive, you could use 3/8, you wouldn't want to go down to 1/4. I've also got a 1/4 inch here with an 8mm, that's for getting the Speedo drive out, because I don't think you get that 1/2 inch 8mm in there. Then we've got a knife blade, you'll see what I use that for in the video. Scalpel, again you'll see that. And this thing here, this is a knackered old scraper, but although it looks like a knackered tool, you'll see how useful it is in the video when I show you what I do with it. And typical, I can't make it flip. There we go, it's broken, so the handle flips around and it becomes a really handy tool. And as you can see, it's been used for all sorts. I've had it for probably 30 years old. This tool here, this is an old punch, and what I've done, I've ground the end to this shape to make it, come on focus, I've ground the end to this shape to, it won't focus, will it? Come on, there we go, so I can go in and do the unstaking the nuts on the end of the intermediate shaft. Little pick tool, that's for doing the spring on the, when you start to strip down the housing, the front housing on the diff lock. There's a spring you need to pull out. 19mm spanner, that's for taking off your high-low and your diff lock switch. Okay. Then you've also got a soft face mallet. This is a must. You need a soft face mallet. Don't go using a hammer. And then here we've got a large screwdriver. That's for getting the screw out on the back of the drum brake, and then a breaker bar. Again, that's a necessity. But I'm sort of filming this after I've done it. On my transfer case, this is necessary because all the bolts not only were tight, but they were all like really bunged up with sealant and thread lock and everything. As you move forward, if you're doing this for a full transfer box strip down, there will be a few other bits and pieces you'll need. If you are doing this just to fit the Ashcroft torque biasing diff, you may want to just use the old bearings if you can, but if you don't want to, you're going to need to pull the flange off on the front output shaft so you can get behind and knock the bearing out. Well, the problem with that is, if you look in the manual, and as we all know with older Land Rovers, you take the nut off, the 30mm nut, using this tool here, which I forgot to mention. This is just a tool I made, and that's for locking the, you hold, in one hand you hold this tool to lock the output flange, and in the other hand you use your breaker bar to undo the nut, and then reverse when you're doing them up. So yeah, they used to have the nut, washer, felt washer, and that was it. Now on mine, this is a 2011 Puma, there were no felt washers, but there was a ton of like a sealing compound on the splines, so I had to literally warm the flanges up with a blow lamp and pull them off. Now unfortunately, I thought I was filming that, but my camera's battery had gone dead, or my phone's battery had gone dead, so it didn't actually get filmed, as did some of the other stuff. So I can talk you through that anyway. But basically you're going to need a 3-legged puller to pull the flanges off of the shafts, because there's no way they're going to come off without it. And I also had to get some heat in there as well. And then you've got the special nut on the end of the differential. You can buy a tool from Ashcroft's, it's £25. I've got the equipment, I like to make my own tools. This is just a lump of old mild steel. What I've done, I've machined it out, 52 millimeters, where is it? 52 millimeters diameter in here, 8mm deep. 66mm diameter here, 4mm deep. And then I've come across and milled away the sides to give me a distance across of 56mm. Then I've welded in 2 flat pieces of steel. As you can see, it's welded on the ends there and then on the back here. So they're welded in, and I've machined it again in the lathe just to get it all looking pretty. So we'll use that in a minute. I've put an M12 thread in the back and a 10.9 or 12.9 high tensile M12 bolt in there. And I've done it up to about 110 pounds-feet, which is double the torque that the nut is done up to. So it shouldn't undo, it should undo the nut rather than undo that, but we'll see. I'll show you that in a minute. So there we go. So and also you're going to need a load of clean rag. I use this blue paper towel stuff, it's really handy. And there we are. That's pretty much it. Now, as I said, I was going to show you stripping down the front output housing and everything. Unfortunately, as I say, my battery went on my camera, so I had to carry on and get it done. I couldn't stop for filming. So if you look in the manual, it's all very, very self-explanatory. You're just removing bolts from the cover and taking the spring out and everything on the but I'll show you those bits when we come to put it all back together. But this is basically what you're going to need to strip it. So here we are at the bench. Here's the transfer case. I'll drag it over and get it into shot. You can see here what I've done. I've got my old Bible out again. This is my book that I use. You've got here LT230 transfer case, box A. Got my Chinese takeaway box, and then down on the lid I've got TCA. So that's where all the bolts will go, and what I do is, as I take them out, I'll write down what they are, so you'll see me stopping and measuring and stuff with this this digital caliper. So turn it on, zero it, always zero your calipers. So as I say, I've got my manual here up on the Amazon Fire tablet. So let's just start taking it apart, and the first thing we've got to do is take out the Speedo drive, which on this one is electronic. Now they're showing me the gearbox is upside down, so I'm going to have to turn it over. I want to make sure I don't break these connectors, so I'll get them out of the way. I'll turn that case over like so. We'll have it like that. So we've got an 8mm bolt there. Is it 8mm? Yes. I can't get stuck at the ratchet spanner in it. It's tight. So we need 8mm ring spanner. Oh, that is tight. It's very hot, so. See the square plastic drive on the bottom of there. I'm going to put that in the box so it doesn't get damaged, and then I can put in the book Speedo, and it's an M6 by 20mm. So you can put in the book M6 by 20mm. Not on there. Okay, you can see there written in M6 by 20mm. Now it's telling me I need to take this out, so I don't quite know how I'm going to get that out. Let's get a pair of Nipex pliers on it. See if I can gently lift it out. And there it is. Looks like it's in very good condition. It says you have to renew the O-ring, so just give that a wipe off. Remove the residual oil, and that can also go in there. And I think what I'll do is put the Speedo dry back in it. There we go. Next thing is remove the 6 bolts securing the bottom cover and remove cover. Oh, okay, it's assuming you've taken these 4 bolts out to put them on the special jig which you use to take the gearbox out, but I haven't, so I've got to take all these bolts out. Okay, so we've got 10 of these. They're mixed by 25, so I've written them down in the book. And just before I do put them in the box, just check they are all the same length. I'm sure they are. No reason for them not to be. Lumps of sealant there. There we go. So they can go in the box there. And they're written down 10 times M8 by 25. And on the left here I've started a list of O-rings and stuff I'm going to need. Now you may notice on this engine, there's sealant. On this transfer box there's sealant. Early transfer boxes use gaskets, later ones use silicone. Apparently, looking at things people have done and read stuff, if your gearbox has sealant, use sealant. If it doesn't, use gaskets. I can see no reason why you shouldn't use sealant on a gasket gearbox as long as you take account of all the bearing clearances and stuff, because sealant is always going to be the better option. Gaskets always leak, always. So I know there's people who say, I've had gaskets on my car for 27 years and it doesn't leak. Yeah, okay, great. So basically, now we need to get this off. Now you will see some people online, they're getting it with chisels and start whacking stuff. I don't do that. I use a knife blade. I've just discovered a way of getting these, getting into these corners with a knife. I've got an ordinary Stanley blade, and if I put the Stanley blade in the joint and just tap it with a soft face mallet, just gently, it will go in there, and then you can go on this side, tap it out, and then go back in again. There we go. Everything gets caught, there's trouble wearing gloves. Let's get that out. So I'll just go on doing this and then I'll come back when it's off. Okay, so that covers off, and that took me about 40 minutes to get off. But it worked, and there's no damage on the face whatsoever, and there's no damage on the face of the cover either, as you can see. This shiny line you can see, this is the raised ribs they put in to sort of pinch the gasket when they use gaskets, but obviously it doesn't really serve much of a purpose now, so if you do damage that while you're doing that, it doesn't really matter. All looking good inside there. Next part of the instructions is to unstake this nut. Now if you can just make sure you can see it. Unstake the nut on the intermediate shaft, and what I did, I just got an old round chisel and ground the end to a wedge so I could punch it in there and get that off. I haven't unstaked a nut for years. And then I think it's a 27mm, nope, it's a 30mm socket. So just get on there and just undo the nut like so, and we're going to wind that nut off. Got a ratchet. For some reason the ratchet doesn't want to go in the socket. And we can wind this nut off all the way. And I will put this in the box, but I won't light it down because whatever rebuild kit I get, it comes with a new nut, so It's a very coarse thread on there. Okay, so that can go in the box. And now it's saying with a soft faced, well, I've got to take this off now, which is a little 10mm. So we've got a 10mm socket. That's the locking plate. I'll get this up so you can see what I'm doing. There you go. Lock it over there like so. There's that nut there which holds the locking plate in. God, everything on here is so tight. I think everything's got thread lock. That's why it's all so tight. So that'll come out there, and then we've got the locking plate. That can go in our box, and then the bolt for the locking plate is an M8, and it's 25mm long. So we can write in the book. Intermediate shaft lock M8 by 25. Okay. Now what it's saying is we need to knock this shaft through from the other side. I want to make up the tool. There's a tool you can get to put in there, and it makes refitting everything really easy. So what it's telling you here to do is remove the plate. Now it's telling me using a soft metal drift on a threaded end intermediate shaft, drive shaft out of main casing. So I've got a plastic mallet here, and it's telling me to drive this out. Now I've got a feeling, a very strong feeling, there's some swarfing, I'll get it off so it doesn't get into the gearbox. I've got a strong feeling that I can't get this out because the bolts on the back get in the way. So is it telling me to take it right out? Yep, so it's telling me to knock this shaft through, and it does actually come out, and I've got my finger stuck. And the noise you can hear there is my dog playing. So there's the shaft. O-ring on the end, all looking good, rust on the end of there, so we'll clean that off in the lathe. But all looking good. We'll get some paper towel, give that a wipe down. And what I'll do is I can use this then as a pattern, just measure the diameter of it. It looks like it's probably 25mm. So I'll just get up a piece of aluminium bar and make up a tool to help you align all that when you're putting it back together again. So now it's telling me to remove and discard the O-rings. Well, I'm not going to do that yet. And now it's telling me to wrap a suitable length of wire around intermediate gears and using assistance lift gears out of main casing. Why do I need assistance? Okay, so there we go. Gears out. Two bits of advice. It says to put the wire around. Put the wire around before you take the shaft out, because once the shaft drops, once the gear drops, you can't get the wire underneath it. So I had to put the shaft back in, and I discovered a little way of doing it. What I actually did was put a bundle of rag between this gear, this gear, and the output shaft from the engine, so the input shaft to the transfer box, and then turn this, and because it's locked it can't go, the gear actually rides up and down, and you can ride the gear up and down and get the shaft in from behind. So that was what I managed to do. So that worked out quite well. So now I'm going to take this piece of wire off. I'm looking at these bearings, they all look pretty good. I'm trying to see if there's a manufacturer's name on there. I can't see one on there, so not sure if Land Rover use cheap Chinese bearings or what, but they look okay. Oh, there is some writing on there. Not sure what make they are. Let's have a look. France. Oh, they have actually used Timken bearings. Fair play. So yeah, they're proper bearings. So they haven't cut on their bearings like they've cut on everything else on this car. So or vehicle, should I say? So let me get these bearings back in. I'll get some wire wrapped around them, and then we can put them in the box ready for cleaning. Right, so the next thing we got to do is remove this cover here, which on this gearbox, because it's a very late one, you can see is aluminium. This is the input shaft cover. This is where the gearbox goes. So the input shaft's there, and we need to mark because we've got a cover, we've got a ring, and then we've got the casing. So I've got a centre punch, and as we've got this stud bolt here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark adjacent to that stud bolt. So centre punch mark there. So we've got a couple of indentations there to show where it goes. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 13mm bolts and 1 15mm stud nut. So I've got a 15mm socket here, and my shorter breaker bar should make me look like work of that. There we go. Get on there. And there we go, that's off. So lots of silicone here. When you take the bolts out, this is just free to spin. I believe there is a paper gasket in there, in this joint. So that throws out my theory about gaskets always leaking, doesn't it? So I'll just shut up in future. In fact, there is no gasket. It's like a, I know what that is. It's something like this, which I've got up here. This is Loctite 574, and this is the kind of stuff that we'll be using in there. It's perfect for flat machine surfaces. It's also good for sealing threads. So we can scrape that away there. So that's that done. And we've got some through holes here, so we're going to have to make sure there's one through hole there, there's one there. Let's just check these holes a second. That one's blind, that one's blind, blind, blind. Those two there are through holes, so they've actually got thread lock in them as well, just to seal the threads. So now this bearing here, this has got a shims behind it. You can see the shims in there. Okay, and that's the only reason I've taken this off. Some of you may be shouting, you don't need to take that off before you're changing as a diff, but I want to check the preload and I want to check every bearing because, as I say, the oils always come out of this thing like a black grey colour, and it's always had filings in it, so I want to see if there's any damage to anything and deal with it now while it's apart. But that bearing race there looks pretty much pretty good, so I don't think I'll be replacing that. There we go, that's out. So obviously the first thing to do was take the cover out. So there's the cover, and then we pulled the gears out, and there was about, I don't know, a couple of 100 mils of or 100 mil of oil in there. So I've just got a little syringe here, syringe that out into a dog food tin, and that can go into the waste oil when I move the Mustang, because the waste oil is behind the Mustang. This is why I need a bigger garage. But you can never have a big enough garage, so if I got a 3-car garage I'd still want more room. Anyway, so next thing in the manual is telling me to do is rip the seal out of the input shaft here. This one, which I don't want to do because it looks absolutely fine. This vehicle's only done 16,000 miles, so a lot of it is going to be absolutely fine. Obviously we will do a full inspection and wear and check all the measurements and everything, but yeah, one other thing with these, I'll show you later in the video I expect, but I've got this old scraper and it's dead handy. It broke. Okay, it's a plastic handle, it's riveted together, it's obviously got a plastic lug in here that stops it spinning round, but it's really good because you can come along with this and you can push it in or whatever, and then you can go around. I forgot I had this earlier when I was doing the sump, and then you can sort of get it into the joint. You can go around and just tap it. You can tap it in, tap it down, tap it in, tap it down, and it's a really handy thing. It's just an ordinary scraper or a putty knife that I've ground the edges away on, so it's sharper and it doesn't damage anything. So it's great at cutting through silicone. So if you've got one of these, put it in a vise, break it, and then you'll have that exposed, and you can tap that in, tap it down. Really good. And these things, they hold razor blades. They're brilliant for scraping off your faces afterwards, so they're really good. So yeah, series of blades and knives and scalpels and all sorts here. So the next thing it's saying in the manual is to remove the 6 bolts securing the high-low cross shaft housing, and that is here. So we've got to turn the gearbox over now, so we'll probably get some oil on the bench, but never mind. So basically you're going to flip it over. I think I'll just flip it over on that way round. Let's go the easiest way. And then, there we go, we've got some rubbish falling off it. All these casings will be fully cleaned out in the wash tank and everything. It'll all be done nice and properly. So I've got to remove this. So that's 6 10mm heads. And I've got my little 3/8 ratchet here with a 10mm socket. Yep. So we undo these. Now these two have already been off because I had so much trouble when it was in the car finding out how to disconnect this connector. So I ended up actually taking that bracket off so I could get a closer look at it. And at the end of the day, it was very simple. I talked about it in one of my wiring videos. So have a look at that one, but these are very difficult to see how they come apart. There's a few on the vehicle. I know there's one behind the dash, and there's also one on each of the door switches that switch the interior lights on your door switch. On the Puma, probably the TD5 as well. But it's not, when you first look at them, it's not absolutely obvious how they come apart. So we'll take these 6 bolts out here, and then once again we're going to be into Silicon Valley. So I'll get these out, I'll get these off, and then we'll come back. So next thing, got that off now, cleaned up the silicone and everything. Next thing is to remove the diff lock switch. And what it's saying is to remove the lock nut. Now the old ones had a lock nut and it was a plunger, so I'm only assuming this one is like a proximity switch or something. So let's have a look and see what we get. On the videos I've seen with these being stripped down, it's a contact switch. Oh, it's still a contact switch, but obviously they don't feel the need for a lock nut anymore, just wind it in. So it's still a contact switch with a plunger on it. So there we go. So that can go in the box with the nuts and bolts and stuff like that. Next it's saying, noting position of longest bolt, remove 8 bolts securing front output housing to main casing and remove the front housing. So this is the front housing, so I've got to remove 8 bolts from around here and then do my trick with the silicone again and get this off. So I'll do that off camera because you don't need to be watching that, do you? You'll fall asleep. Just want to show you how I do this with this. Basically what I've done, I've gone in the corner with the little Stanley blade just to sort of get it to move, and then what you can do is come in with this and just tap it in, not in too far because you don't know what's behind you, you don't want to be damaging anything. Turn it sideways and then you can tap it like this. So we can just, once again we need to go in, we can go in, turn it sideways, tap it down. And basically what that's going to do is cut away all the silicone, but because I'm using a soft face mallet and I'm only tapping it gently, I know I'm not going to damage anything inside. Now if you hit something metal you'll know it. Just turn it around so you can see what I'm doing better. Just tap it like that. Now I know there's dowels in here, or apparently there's dowels in here. Go back in, like so. And I'm just very, very gently tapping it. I'm not beating it because, as I say, you don't know what's in there. If you hit a brass, a brass shifter or something like that, you might do some damage to it. So you need to be a bit careful. Swing it round, and you can flip this over like so, tap it down. Now it's a bit of a problem getting in there because the casing is obviously in the way, so I'm going to come down here round to this side again. we go. You can see once you start getting through it how easy it is to do. There's a dowel there by the feel of it. So we go now, it should. Here we go. So that's just sliding out now. And there we go. So you've got the oil in there, stand it up that way. And there we go, there's our differential. Right, we're back. Since the last little snippet where I removed the front housing, the heavens opened, the rain was torrential, the wind picked up, it was like 50 mile an hour again I think, and it was just ridiculous. I couldn't film anything because I couldn't hear myself think. So what we're going to do now is remove this front housing, and sorry, the rear housing, and basically what it's saying in the manual is note positions of 5 bolts, 2 washers, securing rear output housing to main casing. Well, these all bolts all look the same to me, but they may be different lengths, and I do happen to know from watching some videos from Mike on Britannica Restorations. If you haven't seen his channel, go take a look. You'll be very, very careful with these bolts, and there's some other bolts around as well, because they will stick through the gearbox and they will, the transfer case, and they will smash your box to pieces. So be very, very careful what you're doing. So these look like they're 13 mil. So I've got a 13 mil 1/2 inch drive socket. It's a 10 mil socket on there. I've got an extension. And we'll get my short breaker bar. Right, I'll get these out because it's going to take a while to wind them all out again because they're obviously covered in silicone, and I'll come back. Okay, so there we go. We've got the rear output shaft out now, and basically there it is. We've got the spline part that goes down inside the diff there, and yeah, all lovely, all nice and clean. Yeah, so that's that off. The way this manual works, what it does, it's kind of telling you to strip down the main sub-assemblies, and then you actually go in and strip them down afterwards. The bolts that hold it together are quite obvious. If you've got a later LT230, it tells you in the manual about 5 bolts and flange bolts and nuts and washers and God knows what. All there is, there's what is there? There's 6 bolts, and there's 5 this long, sorry, and then there's 1 which is longer, and it's obvious where they go because you've got, when you look on here, you've got these holes all around, and then you've got the 1 longer hole there. So a deeper hole, should I say. So they can go in. They are actually M10 by 30. Yep. And that one is M10 by, got the crap off the end of it. That one's M10 by 45 by the look of it. So yeah, you can see the amount of rubbish that's on these threads. The amount of thread sealant and silicone, just had to wind them out all the way. Nightmare. So let's get that written down in the book, and then we'll come next. We've got to remove the detent spring and ball from the selector shaft for high-low, and then we can pull the whole diff assembly out. So this is held in with a grub screw, or a screw, should I say, and it's a 6mm Allen key. So it's going to be bloody tight, I expect. Oh, blimey, that is tight. Heat does wonderful things with tight stuff. Just get some heat into the casing. Nothing too much. Don't really use an oxy acetylene, it's a bit vicious. This is just a little blow lamp, as you can see. You see Jess down here watching? No, you can't. Jess is just down here watching what I'm doing. Okay, let's try that. Let's see what happens. There we go. I'm sure you heard that crack. go. So that's the plug. Now what I've done here, what they're saying is in the manual, do not mix up the high-low and the diff lock detent ball and spring. So I've got a little plastic bag here marked high-low, so this can all go in there. Now make sure this isn't too hot. No, it's not too hot. We've got a magnet, get the spring, that can go in there, and then down the bottom we've got the ball, that can go in there. So there we go. So they can go in there and then go in the box with the nuts and bolts. In fact, no, I'm going to put them, no, they can stay in there, otherwise they get damaged. So so that's that done. Now it's going on about removing some bits and pieces for interlocks, solenoid and stuff which I don't have. Withdraw differential assembly together with high-low selector shaft and fork. So we'll turn the transmission around, get the blow lamp out of the way, and now this should come out as one unit. It's quite weighty. There we go. It dropped out. There we go. That is quite weighty. It's a lot heavier than I was expecting it to be. So there we go. And we've got a remains of a Stanley knife blade in there. And then there's our selector fork on the high-low. There's our low gear and there's our high gear, or vice versa. I never. This is the slow one, that's the fast one. I never know which is high and which is low. So there we go. That's that off. And then you just take the selector fork out, put that in the box. And then what we've got to do is undo this nut on the end, unstake this nut on the end of here, and then we'll wind that off. Now I'm going to make a tool. There we go, that's that all apart, and that is basically how you strip your transfer box to fit the Ashcroft ATB Diff. Now, like I say, obviously what you do is undo this nut, press the shaft, rest the low ratio, or whatever gear this is, high, on 2 blocks on your press the shaft through, and then you're going to retain this gear, this hub and this selector ring. Put them back on your new diff, and you will have new bearings to put on your new diff as well. So, and you also get a new nut with the fitting kit. So yeah, if you get the diff on its own, you just get the diff. If you get the fitting kit, you get the 2 bearings for the diff, you get the new nut for here, you get the new nut for the intermediate shaft, you get a pair of O-rings for the intermediate shaft, you get a set of shims so you can set the preload on the diff, and you also get a tube of the high-low seal, the special sealant for sealing everything up. So there we go, that'll be another video. Okay, so this nut, we've got this is the diff, and then we've got the low, or whichever it's called, high ratio gear here, and then we've got our dog here, and then we've got our high ratio, low ratio gear, whatever it is, here, and then we've got the bearing on the end. So what we're going to do is remove this nut. You can see this is a very special nut. You get a new one if you buy the diff with the rebuild kit. You don't get a new one if you just get the diff. So you can see here that it's staked, and you can see that I've unstaked it with the tool I ground up, and then here's the socket I made. So we'll see how it fits. And I honestly haven't tried. I've tried it on there to see if it fits, and it fits beautifully. It kind of goes on and locks on. So I'm happy with that. So I haven't tried undoing this yet. It's apparently, according to the manual, it's tightened to £56. So let's see. Which is going to go in there. So the breaker bar. I've got to be careful I don't just pull this out of the vise. The vise is done up pretty tight. Is this going to work? No, it broke the tool. So there we go, that proves you that I didn't know what I was doing. I got to make the tool again. Right, attempt number 2. Note to self, don't machine or weld away when you're trying to make a tool just to make it look pretty. So let's see how this goes now. Let's try and work it so that I'm pushing it towards the bench. Yep, it's got it. I was wondering if it was left hand thread. So I think we can get a ratchet there. This little half inch thread ratchet. That's got not off. It's still hot. I've just welded it. Of course, the other big problem is when you're working from home, like probably everybody watching this video is pretty much. You're kind of, you know, one minute you're stripping a gearbox and trying to keep the area as clean as possible, and then you're bloody MIG welding in the same area. You know, it's difficult. And this comes pre-loaded with thread lock, so something to be aware of. And also, I've just noticed. I'll get you down here. You can see. If you look down in the groove, you've got all the debris in there, so that's something to be careful of when we push everything off, because we don't want that getting trapped anywhere. So I'll give that a clean out and then we'll get this over on the press. Right then guys, here it is. This is it set up in my press. It's a 10-ton Clark press. Most of my tools are Clark and most of them are crap, but you know, it's cheap, so you expect it to be crap sometimes. So this is how I've got it set up. These are the blocks on the bottom that you get with the press, and I've got those under this large gear, and then all this above it is going to get pressed off. Now here, this is actually a rear caliper piston, 46mm diameter. It's perfect for pressing this out, so always keep stuff like that. If you're rebuilding calipers, keep the old pistons. They're always great for drifts and stuff like that. And I've just got a piece of aluminium on top to take up the gap, so I don't have to pump that head all the way down. Also notice I've marked here the bulk ring and the actual hub, so they go back in the same place. If there's any unusual wear or whatever, I want to make sure it goes back the same. I'm not expecting there to be any usual wear, so it doesn't really matter, but just in case, I've marked it anyway. So I'm not going to actually show you me pressing this out, because I need to get my hands in there and everything, because what I don't want to do is the diff to fall down onto the steel, so I'm going to have to be very, very careful, and I don't want, you know, putting the camera on is just asking for trouble. So I'll do this and then I'll show you what's going on. And the reason I'm doing this is, it doesn't say to do this in the manual. The reason I'm doing it is because to remove this bearing here, to get under there, you would have to destroy this bearing. Now, I don't want to destroy that bearing. I want to save it if I can. I intend to sell this diff because it's a perfectly good diff, and I can sell it with the bearings that it came with. So basically, I'm doing it this way, press it all off together, and then hopefully we can save everything. Right then guys, get the camera beer out of the way. This is it off of the press. It went with a hell of a bang. It really did go with a bang. And we can see that we've got here some ripping of the surface, and it looks like that's probably happened when it went on, because it goes down that way. So that's not amazing, but I'm going to replace this diff anyway. And also I noticed that around here there's lots of metallic debris, and I don't really know where that's come from, because luckily everything that's here is fine. So that's basically a differential. So that's it. That's your front differential, your centre differential with the bearing fitted there. So now what we've got is the actual differential there. Now this is obviously the nut that goes on top. Then we've got our bearing that is pressed on. Okay, so that's an interference fit on here. Okay, then we've got our high and low ratio gear, whatever it's called. I always get them wrong around. So this one here goes onto a bush, and that bush in there is a lovely fit on mine. If it is worn, you can get that bush fairly cheaply. There's also end float you have to consider and measure as well. If you look in the manual, you'll see it. Get some rag here and clean that off. Yeah, so you need to consider your end float. I haven't checked it on here, basically because what's going to determine that is this assembly. So I think we'll see. But anyway, I'll check it when it goes back together. I didn't see any point in checking it before it comes apart, because I'm changing everything. So there we go. So that goes on there. That's upside down. Then we've got this here. This is your hub and your bulk ring for the for your high-low. Okay, now you can see there's something just come off of there. There's a shard of something or other that's just come off there. So there's all sorts of metallic debris in here. I need to find out where it's from. So that's good, and I've marked it front, so this being front, and I've also got the mark in there and on there, so I can make sure it goes back the same if I find any weird wear patterns. Worth noting here, there's a groove cut in the gear, and that groove is on the back side, so that groove goes towards the differential. So if you have got yours apart and you don't know which way it goes, you can see on there that groove is on the back side. So that goes on there, and then we've got this rear gear here which goes on. Again, you can see we've got metallic debris in there. That was one of the reasons I wanted to strip this transfer box down, because every time I've drained the oil, I think it's about 3 times, the oil is grey black colour, grey browny black colour, and there's always metallic debris on the plug. So I just want to see basically what's going on, and if there's anything terrible happening I can find it and sort it now. So there's that one there, and that goes on the diff, and that should just slide on. There we go, dead square, and that just spins on there freely, and then when it's engaged between these splines in there, then it will spin. And as I say, on the smaller gear, that is actually pressed on in that hub. So there we go, guys. So that is all the strip down you need to do for fitting the Ashcroft diff, or for replacing any diff, you know, replacing it with any sort of diff. So I hope this has been of some value. Obviously I'm going to go and now order my diff and everything. As soon as it comes, I'll show you how it all goes back together. In the meantime, I'll be cleaning everything, giving all the casings a good clean. I've got this chemical here from Frost, which is absolutely awesome. You use this, spray it on, leave it for a while, brush it in with a nylon brush. I use a nylon brush in a drill, and then wash it off, and it does really bring them up like new. It brings them up like a realistic new, instead of like a wire brushed, you know, sort of glaring, gleaming custom look. So that's what I like to use. So there we go. That is that. Thanks for watching, and I know it's been a long one. Well done if you've stayed awake. And as Mike says, let's make Land Rovers better. Bye for now.